Hello friends, how are you all? Let us continue lesson number 12, International Economics. This is the fifth video, and until now we have studied the meaning of exchange rates, right? What is the meaning of nominal exchange rate? What is the meaning of real exchange rate, right? Why real exchange rates are important, and how do we define the nominal exchange rate? Then in the previous video, we also started with saying that how do we calculate the nominal effective exchange rate and real effective exchange rate in real life, right? But before that, we need to understand a few concepts. And in this video, again, we will understand a few basic concepts which will be important for you before we get into this. Okay, so don't worry, we'll learn how NIR and REER are calculated by RBI in our country. But before that, let us understand the evolution of foreign exchange regimes in the world. Okay, so foreign exchange regimes meaning, basically whether it is a fixed exchange rate or flexible exchange rate or managed floating, right? So we have seen these different kinds of exchange rate regimes. In this video, we will see the evolution historically, how it got evolved in the world, right? So the very first system that the world was having was the gold standard. Okay, the gold standard. So the name itself suggests this standard uses the gold, okay, sona जिसको हम बोलते हैं. So gold as a basis of exchange rates. Okay, so this was the gold standard, and this system was in operation from 1870 to 1914. Okay, so you can see almost for about 50 years, not exactly 50 years, but almost 45-50 years, this system was in place. And in 1914, you should know that the First World War had begun, right? So up to First World War, the gold standard system was in place. Now, what is the meaning of gold standard? We'll see. See, basically, it is a kind of fixed exchange rate where the exchange rates are fixed with respect to gold. Okay, so exchange rate of one country is fixed with respect to gold. For example, if country A, for example, say country A is say USA. Okay. So in USA says that our 1 unit of currency, that is $1, is equal to 1 gram of gold. Okay, $1 is 1 gram is equivalent to 1 gram of gold. Value of $1 is 1 gram of gold. And there is another country B, say this is China. Okay, and China is saying that value of 1 unit of currency is 2 gram of gold. Okay, so 1 Chinese yuan or renminbi is equal to 2 gram of gold. Can you see this? So basically the value of Chinese currency is 2 times the value of US currency, because एक चाइनीज yuan की कीमत 2 ग्राम है और एक US डॉलर की कीमत 1 ग्राम है. ओके, सो द वैल्यू ऑफ द कंट्री B is twice as much as that of country A, correct? And so this is how it was defined. So basically, depending on that, it means that if A is 1 gram of gold and B is 2 gram of gold, it means B is equal to 2A. So B is Chinese yuan is twice as much valuable as US dollar. So that is the simple exchange rate. So this is a fixed exchange rate because exchange rates are fixed with respect to gold. Okay, and in order to when this system was in place, so the countries had to have equivalent amount of gold with them as much as they printed currencies. So it was not random. Okay, so it's not that India will tomorrow it will say that okay, my 1 rupee will be equal to 1 gram of gold, and tomorrow it will say my 2 rupees will be equal to 2 gram of my 1 rupee will be equal to 2 gram of gold. So no, it cannot randomly do it. As much as currency a country is printing, it has to keep equivalent amount of gold with it. Okay, so it has to have actual amount of gold with them. For example, if a country like India, if it is supplying, the money supply in the economy is say 1 crore rupees. Okay, I'm just giving you an example. If it is 1 crore rupees, and say for example 1 rupee is equal to 1 gram of gold, so basically country India should have 1 crore gram of gold with it in its reserve. So this is very important. So जितना गोल्ड आपके पास रिजर्व में है उतना ही आप करेंसी प्रिंट कर सकते हैं उसके exchange rate के हिसाब से, right? So it was not random that country can assign value to its currency just randomly. So it was depending on how much money you want to supply and how much gold reserves you have. It was depending on that. Now see, in fixed exchange rate system, in this gold standard, there is an automatic correction of balance of payment. Okay, so balance of payment imbalances you already know. So when the balance of payment imbalance means what? There is a current account, right? There is a current account and there is a capital account. So we know that balance of payment gets imbalance when when the current account and capital account are not balancing each other. So that is known as balance of payment, basically balance of payment imbalances. So let us assume that there are two countries. There is an automatic correction of BOP. I'll explain it to you by taking this example. So let us say that there are two countries, UK and France. Okay, UK country is having balance of payment deficit and France is having balance of payment surplus, and they are trading with each other. Okay, now basically since they are trading with each other, and let us assume that okay, there is only current account, that is only trade goods. Okay, trade in goods, only this thing is happening. So basically if UK country is facing balance of payment deficit, it means what? It means that UK people are importing more from France than the France people are importing from UK. So money is basically going out from UK to France, right? Money is basically going out from UK to France. If money is going out of UK to France, it means that the gold is going out of it, because see, because as I told you that there should be an equivalent amount of gold in the country as much as money is there. So if there is any net outflow of money from UK to France, so basically it means that there is a gold outflow from UK to France. Now since there is a gold outflow, so UK will have to reduce its money supply because it does not have the sufficient gold reserves now. And therefore since the money supply reduces, the price will drop, right? If money supply reduces, your price levels will drop, and because inflation will go down, prices will fall. And opposite thing will happen in France. In France, what will happen? Money supply will increase and prices will go up. Now since the UK prices are going down now, therefore UK commodities, UK goods will become cheaper. Since they become cheaper, so UK exports will increase and France exports will decrease, because France prices are going up and UK prices are going down. So automatically the BOP will get balanced. Now UK is exporting more, France is exporting less, so it gets balanced. So obviously this is just a theoretical concept, but this is how it happens, right? So basically gold standard has an automatic correction of BOP. Now let us move to the next system, which was in place right after 1914 up to 1945. Okay, up to the Second World War. From the First World War beginning to the end of Second World War, there was a system which was known as gold exchange standard. Okay, see there is an additional word exchange here. Now here countries introduced paper currencies, okay, and money exchangeable at a fixed rate of gold, but held little or no gold. So basically, as I told you here, in gold standard, the countries had to keep the equivalent amount of gold with them in their reserves. But in gold exchange standard, it was not necessary that the countries will keep the equivalent amount of gold. It can hold little or no gold also, okay. Instead of gold, they can hold, okay, they held currencies of some large economies like USA or UK. So see, now the US dollars and UK pound, they became the reserve currencies. Okay, they became the reserves currencies. So instead of gold as reserves, countries could hold the currencies of these large economies, these big countries, instead of gold. Okay, and these countries were still on the gold standard. Okay, so they were still following the gold standard. That is, the value of their currency was still in terms of gold, some units of gold. So they were still following the gold standard, and other countries used to depend on the value of these bigger economies currencies like US dollar and UK pound. And in this period, countries were doing competitive devaluations also. Okay, so deliberately, since the countries did not have to keep gold reserves with them, okay, so it could devalue its currencies very easily. Devalue meaning to reduce the value in terms of foreign currency. So basically, for example, if today $1 is equal to 50 rupees and deliberately RBI devalues its currency, meaning $1 will be equal to 55 rupees. Now, what is the benefit of this? Benefit of this is that our exports will increase. Okay, our exports will increase because see, for example, if as I have told you, with $1 an American could buy a goods worth 50 rupees only. But now with $1, an American can buy goods worth 55 rupees. Right? For example, if there is a if there is a commodity, Indian commodity, the cost of which is 5 rupees. Okay, so previously with $1, that person could buy 10 numbers of that commodities. But now with this exchange rate, the person can buy 11 number of that particular commodity. So basically, see, now the Americans can buy more Indian commodities, so our exports will increase. So that is known as competitive devaluation. And during between these two world war, there was a lot of economic war also going on. So people just wanted to improve their economies. There was a lot of competition between European countries, American countries, and different other countries like Japan, etc. So that is why countries were going for competitive devaluations during this period. Then after the world war got over, okay, people understood that war is not a solution to our problems, and war is bad, right? War leads to nothing but destruction, and destruction of life and economy and property and everything. So basically people understood that, okay, we did 2 world wars, nothing happened, and then they sat in a conference which was known as Bretton Woods conference, because it happened in a city of Bretton Woods, okay, in America, in USA. So that is why that conference was known as Bretton Woods Conference, and it happened in 1944, okay, towards the end of World War. And from the result of this Bretton Woods Conference was that it led to formation of 3 international bodies, global bodies. The first one was IMF, second one was World Bank, and third one was GATT. GATT is General Agreement on Tariff and Trade. So we will study about this in detail in the next lesson. But just I wanted to give you a background because we are studying the Bretton Woods system here, evolution of foreign exchange regimes. This regime was up to 1971. Okay, it got broken in 1971. We'll also see why. So what was this Bretton Woods system? Okay, so Bretton Woods system led to prominence of US dollar. Okay, so US became the world leader. It became the world leader. It became the world economic power, the superpower, right? And that is why what happened, that again it was a fixed exchange rate system, but unlike gold and also the UK pound, now nothing, only US dollar was the main global currency. Okay, UK pound was also not there, gold was also not there. So in Bretton Woods system there was a prominence of US dollar. Okay, so again it is a kind of gold exchange standard only, but now only US dollar was at the center of the system. As I have told you, in gold exchange standard we saw that the countries could hold the currencies of other large economies also, so like USA or UK or Japan also. So Japanese yen could also be held, but here in Bretton Woods system only gold became at the center. So everything used to get converted in terms of gold, and it was a 2-tier system. Okay, let us understand what was this 2-tier system. So in this 2-tier system, see IMF, so basically this system was adopted by the IMF member countries. There were about 189 countries in IMF. Okay, so IMF member countries, what they did, so they exchanged their currencies, their local currencies into US dollars at a fixed rate. Okay, at a fixed rate, but there was a 1% band allowed. So for example, if India, for example, said that, okay, $1 will be equal to 50 rupees. I'm just giving you an example. So this was a fixed exchange rate of rupee versus dollar, and 1% plus minus was allowed. Okay, 1% fluctuation was allowed in this. So 1% meaning 0.5. So it could become 49.5 and 50.5, something like this. So this 1% fluctuation was allowed, but it was fixed exchange rate versus the US dollar, and US dollar was fixed against the gold. And what was the price? $35 for 1 ounce of gold. Okay, 1 ounce of gold. So ounce is a measure of it's a measure of weight, of mass. So basically, if I'm not wrong, 1 ounce is equal to 28 grams something. Okay, so US dollar was exchangeable with gold at a fixed price, $35 per ounce. But this convertibility was limited only to government. Okay, only government could convert, not that any Tom, Dick and Harry, any random person can go to America and give to American government that you take $35 and give me 1 ounce of gold. No, that was not possible. It was only allowed for the governments. For example, government of India, government of Pakistan, or government of China. Any government can go and they can exchange, not any private person. So that was a limitation. So this was the tier 1. Okay, in tier 1 basically here the IMF member countries, they are exchanging their currencies with the US dollar, and US dollar can be exchanged with gold. Okay, and this is basically the official exchange rate, the tier 1, because here the countries are exchanging their local currencies with US dollar, so that is their official exchange rate. And this is a tier 2 where US dollar is getting converted into gold. Now what was the reason that US dollar was chosen? Because see, at that time USA as a country became the super rich country, okay, the richest country in the world, and it held 70% of the total gold reserves. Can you imagine this? उस टाइम पर पूरे विश्व के 70% गोल्ड के रिजर्व्स यूएस के पास में थे. सो 70% ऑफ वर्ल्ड्स गोल्ड वाज विद यूएसए. सो इट बिकेम सो रिच एट दैट टाइम, एंड दैट्स व्हाई यूएस वाज सो ओवर कॉन्फिडेंट दैट ओके यू कैन ब्रिंग एनी अमाउंट ऑफ डॉलर्स टू अस एंड वी कैन गिव यू गोल्ड फ्रीली एट दिस रेट. Okay, at this rate. So that is why US dollar became the prominent. Now exchange rate of a country vis-a-vis US dollar was allowed in case of chronic deficit in BOP. Okay, exchange rate basically devaluation here. So I forgot to write the word devaluation. So it was exchange rate devaluation. So basically exchange rate devaluation of a country vis-a-vis US dollar was allowed in case of chronic deficit in balance of payment. So for example, if $1 is equal to rupees 50, now you know India is facing a lot of trouble with this balance of payment, so it was allowed that okay, now $1 will be equal to 60 rupees. So this is the devaluation of rupees. Okay, because now we have to pay more rupees for $1. So it was allowed when you know balance of payment was in chronic deficit. Okay, we are not able to balance our balance of payment, so in that case it was allowed. So now you see there was a collapse of Bretton Woods System in 1971. Why did it get collapsed? Because see, America held 70% of reserves of gold, right? And American government was saying up to that point that okay, you bring us any amount of dollar. For example, if you bring us $35, we will give you 1 ounce of gold. To any country it was saying that okay, 1 ounce of gold we will give it to you. So that was the confidence that the American government was having in their system. But what happened? Over the years, there was very high inflation and trade deficit of US. Okay, so US was going into trade deficit and there was a high inflation also. Now, because of high inflation, gold prices also increased in the international market. Okay, gold prices in the international market was increasing. Now, see what is happening here. Arbitration is happening. Okay, this is known as arbitration. Now arbitration happening meaning what? See, now countries can convert their dollar into gold at fixed rate of $35 per ounce. So for example, if India goes and if India gives $35, okay, if India gives $35 to US government will give 1 ounce of gold. Okay, 1 ounce of gold to Indian government. This was the rule. So America was giving this. For example, if you take $350, they will give you 10 ounce of gold. Okay, so this was the rule. You take you bring dollar, you take the gold. Now in the international market, the prices of gold became say for example $40 per ounce. Okay, for 1 ounce it became $40. Now what these countries were doing? These countries were taking dollars to America, taking gold and selling this gold at $40 in the international market. So it was earning $5 in this transaction, right? So अमेरिका से $35 में 1 ounce गोल्ड ले लिया और ये 1 ounce गोल्ड इंटरनेशनल मार्केट में ले जाके $40 में बेच दिया. Okay, so this process is known as arbitration. This business is known as arbitration business. So countries were doing this, and you know, so countries would convert their dollar into gold at a fixed rate of $35 per ounce and sell this gold into international market at a higher price, say $38 or $48 or $40. So what happened? US government understood this. Okay, तो US government ने सोचा यार पूरी दुनिया मिलके तो हमको पागल बना रही है. Okay, people are fooling us. So basically they are taking 1 ounce of gold at $35 from us and they are selling in the international market at $40. So then the American president, I think it was Richard Nixon. Okay, Richard Nixon was there at that time. And Richard Nixon told that no, we will no longer, honor our commitment. So US gave up on its commitment to convert dollar into gold freely. So US ने बोल दिया कि अब हम ये कन्वर्शन का खेल नहीं करेंगे, हमको कोई लेना देना नहीं है, हम डॉलर और गोल्ड के बीच में फ्री कन्वर्टिबिलिटी नहीं रखेंगे. Okay, they said that we will not keep this free convertibility. And therefore world moved to the flexible exchange rate system in 1976 in Jamaica. So there was another conference just like Bretton Woods conference in Jamaica. Jamaica is a country, and that agreement was known as Jamaica Agreement. And then every country said that okay, we will have our flexible exchange rate system, and our exchange rate will fluctuate depending on our demand and supply of currency, depending on the trade and capital flows, all that. Okay, and then there was a creation of SDR also in the meanwhile. So murmur started growing up right in 1969 itself. There is some problem, and American people were saying what is happening. Okay, unnecessary people are bringing dollars and taking gold, and so this is not helping us. So basically in 1969 the IMF created a special currency known as SDR. So basically it is not a currency, it was a special drawing rights. Okay, so SDR is not a currency, it is a kind of reserve asset. So just like gold, okay, just like gold, SDR was created. Okay, now what is SDR, we'll see, and how it replaced gold. See, basically previously in the gold standard, you remember the countries had to keep some international reserve in the form of gold. Then in the gold exchange standard, the countries had to keep either the US dollar or the UK pound. Then in the Bretton Woods system, the countries could keep the US dollar as their reserves, and they could exchange that US dollars for gold at any time. But after the fall of Bretton Woods system, okay, in the flexible exchange rate system, the country should have some some international reserve asset in which it can keep its reserves. Okay, and that international asset was SDR basically, and that's why it is known as paper gold. Okay, it worked as a gold for people because it worked as a reserve asset. Okay, it worked as a reserve asset. Now how IMF created SDR, I'll tell you. So see, there are 189 member countries of IMF. What they will do, so basically International Monetary Fund. So it is a kind of fund. Fund means what? Fund meaning collection of money from so many different members, that is known as fund, right? हमने देखा है ये collective investment scheme में भी. So fund means what? It is a collection of money from so many different people and it is brought together in one place, that is known as fund. Same thing is happening in IMF. 189 member countries, they are contributing money to IMF. Okay, they are giving some money, some amount of money to IMF. Now which country will give how much money, it will depend on the financial and economic importance of that country. तो जितना बड़ा देश होगा, जितना अमीर देश होगा, उतना ज़्यादा वो contribute करेगा, right? So US, UK, Japan, China, all these big countries, they will give more money to the IMF kitty. So this is the IMF kitty. Okay, and this economic and financial importance will depend on GDP, openness, economic variability, and forex reserves. So this is additional information basically. Okay, so you just understand that big countries, important countries, financial and economically developed countries, they will give more money to IMF for this fund. And जितना money दिया है उतना ही quota IMF उनको allot करेगा. Okay, so what happened? For example, I'll give you an example. For example, USA, they gave $1 million. Okay, UK, they gave $0.5 million equivalent. Okay, then China gave say $0.1 million. Then Japan gave $0.2 million. Okay, and India, and in India gave again $0.1 million. Okay, and let us have one more country. For example, France. So France gave another $0.1 million. Okay, so total how much happened? This is $2 million total. So this say for example there are only 6 countries. So $2 million was the total contribution to SDR. Now out of this $2 million, 50% is America's. So America's quota will be 50%. Okay, UK quota will be 25%. Right? So like this the quota will be decided. This will be 10%. This will be 5%. 5%, like this. Okay, so depending on your contribution, you will get the quota, as simple as that. And now this quota is, so basically initially your quota will be equal to your money contribution, right? Quota will be equal to your money contribution. But this quota now what is the importance of this quota? Now quota means what? Quota is how much you can borrow in case of balance of payment crisis. For example, if India is suffering from balance of payment crisis, so it can borrow up to $0.1 million from IMF in that case. Okay, it can borrow that much amount. And it also defines the voting power. जितना आपने contribute किया है उतना आपको voting power मिलेगा. And these quota are denominated in SDRs. So for examples, if this total $2 million, if it is divided into say 200 SDRs. Okay, so equivalent amount of SDR, US will give 100 SDRs, right? Then UK will give 50 SDRs, because 2 million SDR means 200 SDRs. That means $2 million means 200 SDRs. So $1 million means 100 SDRs. So 100 SDR meaning 50% quota, right? So these quotas were denominated in terms of SDR. So US has 100 SDRs, UK has 50 SDRs, right? Likewise, so China will have 10 SDR, something like that. Okay, it will go on like this. So these are denominated in SDRs. Now SDRs are therefore international reserve asset. तो एक कंट्री के पास में जितना SDR होगा उसके पास में उतना रिजर्व होगा, because these SDRs can be exchanged for the international currencies. Okay, these SDRs can be freely converted into international currencies. Okay, and these currencies we'll discuss. It can be exchanged for US dollars, euro, Chinese renminbi, which was added in 2015, Japanese yen and pound. Okay, so these are the 5 countries, these are the 5 currencies in which an SDR can be freely converted. Okay, and SDR is not a currency, it is just a quota, or it is just an international reserve asset. It is also not a claim on IMF. Okay, so it is not that a country can go and say, I have given you $1 million, so you give me back my $1 million. So it is not a claim. So IMF has not taken a loan from a country. It is just a voluntary contribution of the members to the kitty. Okay, and it can be exchanged for the 5 currencies freely. So that's why it is known as paper gold. Just like the gold could be converted into US dollar or any other currency, this SDR can also be converted freely into the 5 currencies, and that's why it is known as paper gold. And it is also a unit of account of IMF. So IMF does all its transaction in terms of SDRs only. And SDR value varies. Okay, SDR value varies depending on the value of this. Okay, exchange rate of these 5 currencies. Okay, depending on the exchange rate of these 5 currencies vis-a-vis US dollar, the value of SDR also varies. So and different weights are given to these currencies depending on their international transactions. So that is how the value of SDRs are calculated. So I hope now you understood what is an SDR. The whole point of this lesson was that I wanted to explain to you the meaning of SDR. Okay, what is SDR and how it became the international reserve asset. Okay, so in the next video we will continue with exchange rate again, and we'll study how NIR and RIR are actually calculated. Thank you.